The emergency alert didn't come through my phone. It came through my laptop. I wasn't even online. No Wi-Fi. No signal. Just a blank document and the soft hum of my dying apartment heater. I was halfway through writing a post about a supposed river ghost in Kentucky when the screen flickered. Then the message appeared. Emergency alert. Do not travel to Salt Lake, West Virginia. Stay indoors if you are already there. The storms are not weather. I stared at it for a long time. No notification sound. No sender. No timestamp. Just those words, burned into my screen like they'd always been there. I wish I had listened. My name is Paul Matz. I'm an amateur historian, though historian might be giving myself too much credit. I spend my weekends chasing strange stories, urban legends, and things that most people write off as nonsense. Most of the time, they are. I've driven across state lines to investigate a lake monster that turned out to be a broken dock. I've spent nights in abandoned buildings waiting for ghosts that never showed. I've interviewed people who swore they saw things, until their stories fell apart under basic questioning. But every now and then, something doesn't. Something sticks. That alert? That was one of those things. At first, I thought it was a prank. Maybe malware. Maybe I'd clicked something I shouldn't have. I shut the laptop, made coffee, and tried to forget about it. But I couldn't. Because when I opened it again, the message was gone. No history. No trace. No saved file. Just my unfinished document and a blinking cursor. That's when I made a mistake I can't take back. I started digging. Salt Lake, West Virginia. I'd never heard of it before, which was strange in itself. Even the smallest towns usually leave some kind of footprint online, maps, census data, photos, something. But Salt Lake? It barely existed. No official website. No recent photos. No tourism mentions. Just fragments. A forum post from 2004. If you hear the sirens during the day, get inside. Don't look outside. Don't open the door. A scanned newspaper clipping from 1986. Multiple residents reported missing following sudden atmospheric disturbance. And then, a blog. 3 likes. No comments. The title read, Stay out of Salt Lake. The storms take people. I should have closed the tab. Instead, I packed a bag. The drive took longer than it should have. Not because of traffic, there wasn't any, but because my GPS kept cutting out the closer I got to Salt Lake. Roads vanished off the map. My signal dropped to 0. At one point, the navigation simply froze, leaving me staring at a blank screen while surrounded by miles of forest. If it hadn't been for the old highway signs, faded, rusted, barely legible, I would have turned back. Looking back now, I should have. By the time I finally saw the sign for Salt Lake, the sun was already starting to dip. The sign itself looked ancient. White paint peeling, wood warped, letters barely clinging on. Welcome to Salt Lake. Population, 312. Someone had scratched something underneath it. I didn't notice it until I was already driving past. Later, I would wish I had stopped to read it. The town felt wrong. Not abandoned. Not exactly. Just paused. The streets were empty, but not quiet. I could hear things, distant movement, doors closing, the faint sound of voices, but every time I looked, there was no one there. Houses lined the road, all in decent condition, but every curtain was drawn. Every single one. It felt like the whole town was watching me, without letting me see them. I parked near what looked like the town square, a small cluster of buildings surrounding a cracked fountain that hadn't run in years. The moment I stepped out of my car, I felt it. That shift. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like something had noticed me. I tried to shake it off. I'd been in places like this before. Small towns always get weird around outsiders. Still, this felt different. Heavier. I grabbed my bag and headed toward the only place that looked open, a bar with a flickering sign that read, Silver Stallion. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and something else, something stale. Conversation died the second I walked in. Every head turned. I froze for half a second before forcing myself to move, making my way to the bar like I hadn't just walked into a room full of people who clearly didn't want me there. The bartender didn't greet me. Didn't smile. He just stared. "What'll it be?" he said, voice flat. Beer," I replied. "Whatever you've got on tap." He poured it slowly, never breaking eye contact, then slid it toward me. I took a sip. Warm. Bitter. "Not great. Not from around here," he said. It wasn't a question. "No," I admitted. "Just passing through." That was a lie. Everyone in that room knew it. "You shouldn't stay long," he said. A man a few stools down let out a quiet laugh. Another muttered something under his breath. I couldn't make it out, but it didn't sound friendly. I forced a smile. Actually, I was hoping to ask about something. That got their attention. More than I expected. The room didn't just go quiet this time. It went still. "The storms," I said. I shouldn't have said it like that. The bartender's hand tightened around the glass he was holding. Somewhere behind me, a chair scraped loudly against the floor. "No," he said. Just that. No explanation. No warning. Just a flat, final answer. I swallowed. "Look, I'm doing research. I've read some things online, and I just. You need to leave." This time, it came from my right. An old man sat beside me, hunched over his drink. I hadn't even noticed him before. His beard was thin and gray, his hands shaking slightly as he gripped the glass. But his eyes. They were sharp. Focused. And locked directly onto mine. "Get in your car," he said quietly. "Drive. Don't stop. Don't come back." I let out a nervous chuckle. "That bad, huh?" He didn't smile. "You don't understand," he said. "You're already too close." Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. Too close to what? Before I could ask, the bartender slammed a hand on the counter. "That's enough." His eyes moved from me to the old man. Then back again. "You finished your drink?" he asked. It didn't feel like a question. I nodded. "Then get out." No one else spoke. No one moved. They just watched. I set some cash on the counter, stood up slowly, and walked toward the door, feeling their eyes on my back the entire time. The second I stepped outside, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That should have been it. That should have been the moment I left. But as I reached my car, I heard footsteps behind me. "Hey," a voice called out. "Wait." I turned. A man about my age jogged up to me, slightly out of breath. He didn't look like the others. Cleaner. Less worn. Less afraid. "I heard what you were asking about," he said, glancing back toward the bar. "About the storms." I hesitated. "Yeah." He nodded. "They won't tell you anything," he said. "Not like that." "Why not?" He gave a small, humorless smile. "Because they're scared." "Of what?" I asked. For a moment, he didn't answer. He just looked at me. Then he said, "Of what happens when the sirens go off." A chill ran down my spine. I crossed my arms, trying to hide it. And you're not scared? He shrugged. Not enough to stay quiet. He extended a hand. Name's Josiah. I hesitated for only a second before shaking it. Paul. His grip was firm. Too firm. If you really want answers, he said, you're gonna need to see where it all started. Where's that? He smiled. Not warmly. The library. The library sat at the far end of town, half hidden behind overgrown trees and a rusted iron fence that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. If Josiah hadn't been leading the way, I would have driven right past it. You'll like this place, he said as we walked up the cracked stone path. If you're into weird history. That word again. Weird. People always use it when they don't want to say something else. Something more honest. The front door creaked loudly as he pushed it open, the sound echoing through the empty building. The moment I stepped inside, I was hit with the smell, dust, mildew, and something faintly metallic underneath it all. The place was quiet. Too quiet. Rows of shelves stretched into dim corners, most of the books coated in a thin gray film like they hadn't been touched in years. Does anyone even come here? I asked. Not unless they have to, Josiah replied. That didn't exactly make me feel better. A small bell on the counter rang as we approached, though neither of us had touched it. A few seconds later, a woman appeared from the back room. She looked to be in her mid-twenties, with strawberry blonde hair and sharp green eyes that immediately locked onto me. Not curious. Not friendly. Assessing. Josiah, she said flatly. Didn't expect to see you today. Miss me, he replied with a grin. She ignored that, her gaze shifting back to me. Who's this? Paul, he said. He's researching the storms. That was all it took. Her expression changed instantly. Not fear. Something colder. You shouldn't be here, she said. I forced a polite smile. I've heard that a lot today. I'm serious, she replied. People who come asking about that don't usually. Relax, Josiah cut in. He just wants to read. No harm in that, right? She stared at him for a long moment, like she was weighing something. Then she sighed. Stay where I can see you, she said to me. And don't touch anything unless I give it to you. Before I could respond, she disappeared into the back again. I glanced at Josiah. Friendly. She warms up, he said, though he didn't sound convinced. If you are new on my channel The Silent Screams, please donate me in the form of subscribe. A minute later, she returned carrying 2 items. One was a thick, worn book titled Unusual Atmospheric Phenomena, a Regional Study. The other was a journal. No title. No label. Just cracked leather and yellowed pages. This is all we have, she said, placing them on the counter. And you didn't get them from me. I raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? It means, she said, leaning slightly closer, you read fast, and you forget faster. A silence stretched between us. Then Josiah clapped his hands once. Well, that settles it. Let the man study. I took the books and moved to a nearby table, trying to ignore the way the librarian's eyes followed me the entire time. I started with the printed book. Most of it was exactly what you'd expect, technical jargon, weather patterns, outdated theories. But buried in one chapter, was a section that didn't belong. No scientific explanation. No data. Just a short paragraph. Certain storms observed in isolated regions do not behave according to known meteorological principles. Witnesses report total light absorption, auditory distortion, and temporary spatial disorientation. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Total light absorption. That wasn't a storm. That was something else. I flipped through the rest, nothing. Like the author had second-guessed themselves and decided not to elaborate. So I moved on to the journal. The first few pages were normal enough, dates, names, small town notes. Then I reached an entry that made my hands go still. June 16, 1978. It came back today. The storm. Sirens went off just after noon. Everyone ran inside, everyone except him. Nelson fell in the street. He couldn't get up. We watched from the windows. No one moved. No one helped. Because we knew. I swallowed. And kept reading. The cloud swallowed him. But this time. I saw something. It wasn't alone. There was a shape inside it. Moving. Walking. It reached him, and took him. My heart started to pound. Slowly, I looked up from the page. The library felt darker now. Quieter. Like the air itself had changed. From across the room, the librarian was still watching me. Not just watching. Waiting. I looked back down at the journal. There was one final line in the entry. Written shakier than the rest. It's not the storm. The storm is just how it arrives. A sudden sound cut through the silence. Outside. A distant, metallic wail. I froze. Josiah didn't. Oh, he said quietly. That's not good. My stomach dropped. What is that? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just looked toward the window. And then he said. The sirens. The sound grew louder. It wasn't like any siren I'd ever heard before, not police, not weather, not anything normal. It was deeper. Warped. Like metal grinding against metal, stretched into a long, unnatural wail that vibrated through the walls. Through my chest. What does that mean? I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. Josiah didn't take his eyes off the window. It means you don't go outside, he said. The librarian moved fast. Faster than she had any right to. Back room. Now, she snapped, already pulling keys from her pocket. What, why? I stammered. Because if you're still near a window when it gets here, she said, unlocking a heavy door behind the counter, you won't get a second chance. That was enough for me. I grabbed the journal and followed. The back room was small, windowless, and smelled even worse than the rest of the library. Filing cabinets lined the walls, most of them dented and rusted. The only light came from a single flickering bulb overhead. The librarian slammed the door shut behind us and locked it. Then she turned to me. Did you read it? She asked. I nodded slowly. The journal, yeah. Then you know, she said. No, I replied, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. I don't. Not really. Before she could respond, the siren cut off. Just like that. Silence. For half a second, I thought maybe it was over. Then the temperature dropped. It wasn't gradual. It was instant. Like the air had been sucked out and replaced with something colder. Heavier. I exhaled, and for a brief moment. I thought I saw my breath. That's new, I muttered. Josiah gave a dry laugh. No, he said. That's normal. A low rumble rolled through the building, followed by the faint sound of something hitting the roof. Not rain. Too heavy. Too spaced out. Thud. 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 Each impact made the light flicker. I turned toward the door instinctively. What is that? I whispered. The librarian didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Hard. Do not open that door, she said. No matter what you hear. My stomach tightened. What am I going to hear? She hesitated. That was worse than any answer. Outside, the wind picked up, fast, violent, howling through the streets like something alive. The walls creaked. Shelves rattled. Papers fluttered across the floor. And then it got dark. Not like night. Not like a storm. The light above us flickered again, weaker this time, and I realized something that made my skin crawl. It wasn't the bulb failing. Something outside was blocking the light completely. Like a shadow swallowing everything. Oh my God, I breathed. Josiah finally looked at me. Yeah, he said quietly. That's it. The storm. Except, it didn't feel like a storm. Storms don't move like that. Storms don't feel like they're watching you. A sharp crack echoed somewhere outside, followed by the distant sound of glass shattering. Then came something worse. A voice. Faint at first. Barely audible over the wind. Hello. I froze. Did you hear that? I whispered. Neither of them answered. The voice came again. Closer. Please. My throat went dry. That's someone, I said. Someone's out there. The librarian tightened her grip painfully. No, she said. That's not someone. The voice shifted. Not in volume. In tone. Like multiple voices trying to speak through the same mouth. Help me. Let me in. Please. It was right outside the door now. I could hear it clearly. Too clearly. My heart pounded in my ears as I stared at the handle. It rattled. Once. Twice. Then violently. Bang. I flinched. Opened the door, the voice screamed. But it wasn't just one voice anymore. There were dozens. Layered. Overlapping. All desperate. All wrong. Open the door. The entire frame shook with the force of it. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a fallen chair. Someone's going to die out there. I shouted. Josiah stepped in front of the door. No, he said firmly. They already did. Another slam. Harder this time. The wood splintered slightly near the lock. My chest tightened. What if it's real? I said, my voice cracking. What if we're just... It's not real, he snapped. The librarian leaned in close, her voice low and deadly serious. It wants you to think that, she said. The banging stopped. Just like the siren had. Silence filled the room again. Heavy. Oppressive. I barely had time to breathe before something else happened. A shadow slipped under the door. Not like light. Not like darkness. It moved. Alive. Crawling slowly across the floor toward us. I backed away, heart racing. What the hell is that? I whispered. No one answered. The shadow stretched. Twisted. And then. It stood up. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough. Enough to resemble something human. My pulse spiked. This isn't weather, I said, barely able to get the words out. Josiah shook his head slowly. No, he said. It's not. The shadow tilted. Like it was looking at me. And in that moment, I understood something I wish I didn't. The journal was right. The storm wasn't the danger. It was just how it arrived. The shadow moved. Not fast. Not slow. Just, deliberate. Like it knew exactly where I was, and wasn't in any hurry to reach me. I stumbled back until my shoulders hit the cold metal of a filing cabinet. My breath came in short bursts, eyes locked on the thing stretching itself taller in the dim light. It didn't have a face. Not really. But I could still feel it looking at me. Studying me. Choosing. Don't move, the librarian whispered. Too late for that. My entire body was shaking. What is it? I asked, barely able to get the words out. Josiah didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, eyes fixed on the figure. Sometimes, he said slowly, it comes in pieces first. Pieces? I echoed. The shadow twitched. As if reacting to the sound of my voice. I clamped my mouth shut. Outside, the wind howled louder, pressing against the building like it was trying to tear it apart. Something heavy scraped across the roof. The walls groaned. But inside the room, everything revolved around that thing. It took another step forward. Except it didn't step. It stretched. Pulled itself across the floor in a way that made no sense, like it wasn't bound by the same rules as everything else. The light flickered again. For a split second. I saw more of it. Not just a shadow. A shape. Long arms. Too long. Bending at angles they shouldn't. My stomach turned. Oh God, I whispered. The librarian's grip on my arm tightened. Stop reacting, she hissed. It notices that. Too late again. The shadow jerked. Then tilted its head, if it even had one. A low sound filled the room. Not from outside. From it. Like air being forced through something that didn't know how to breathe. Then. It spoke. Paul. Every muscle in my body locked up. No, I said instinctively. No, no. It said my name again. Clearer this time. Closer. How does it know me? I choked. Josiah's expression darkened. It doesn't, he said. Then how? It pulls it from you. My heart skipped. What? It takes what's already there, he said. Memories. Thoughts. Anything it can use. The thing leaned forward. You shouldn't have come here. The voice shifted as it spoke. Not just one voice. Many. If you are new on my channel The Silent Screams, please donate me in the form of subscribe. Layered over each other. Some of them sounded familiar. My chest tightened. I took another step back. And knocked over a stack of files. They hit the ground with a loud crash. The shadow reacted instantly. It lunged. The movement was sudden, violent, covering half the room in less than a second. I screamed and stumbled sideways, hitting the wall hard. Don't run. Josiah shouted. I'm not, I started, but my voice broke as the thing stopped just inches from me. It hovered there. Close enough that I could feel the cold radiating off it. Close enough that I could almost make out something inside it. Shapes. Faces. Gone before I could focus. My pulse pounded in my ears. The thing tilted again. Then slowly. It reached toward me. I froze. The librarian moved. She stepped between us. Back, she said sharply. The shadow didn't listen. It kept reaching. Closer. Closer. Then the lights went out. Total darkness swallowed the room. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just black. Then. A deafening crack split the air. Like thunder directly overhead. The building shook violently. And just like that. The pressure lifted. The wind outside died down. The temperature rose. The light flickered back on. The shadow was gone. I collapsed to my knees, gasping for air I didn't realize I'd been holding. What just happened? I stammered. No one answered immediately. Josiah ran a hand through his hair, visibly shaken for the first time since I'd met him. It passed, he said finally. That was it. I looked at the door. At the faint cracks in the wood. At the space where that thing had been standing seconds ago. That thing, that's what's taking people. I asked. The librarian shook her head slowly. No, she said. That's just what it sends in first. My stomach dropped. First. I repeated. Josiah let out a quiet breath. You didn't think it only took one at a time, did you? A chill ran down my spine. Because suddenly. Everything made sense. The warnings. The fear. The silence. This town didn't just survive the storms. It endured them. And something told me. They weren't telling me everything. No one spoke for a long time. The storm was gone, but the feeling it left behind wasn't. It clung to the air like something rotten. I pushed myself up from the floor, legs unsteady, eyes still fixed on the spot where that thing had been. That wasn't just some random event, I said. You both knew exactly what to do. Josiah didn't deny it. Neither did the librarian. What aren't you telling me? I pressed. The librarian exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding it in for years. What we don't tell people, she said, is how this town is still standing. That sent a cold wave through me. What does that mean? Josiah leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. It means, he said, we figured out the pattern. I frowned. Pattern? The storms don't just happen randomly, he continued. They come, expecting something. My stomach dropped. No, I said quietly. No, you don't mean. We do, the librarian cut in. Her voice was flat. Emotionless. They take people. You already know that. But what you don't know is, they don't take everyone. I stared at her. Why not? Josiah gave a humorless smile. Because we learned how to choose. The room felt smaller. Harder to breathe in. You're saying, I swallowed. You decide who gets taken. No, the librarian said. We decide who doesn't. That was worse. So the rest just, what? I snapped. Get sacrificed. No one answered. They didn't have to. A memory flashed in my head. The bar. The silence. The stairs. The hostility. You knew I was an outsider the second I walked in, I said slowly. Josiah didn't look at me. Yeah. And that old man, I continued. He told me to leave. The librarian's expression shifted slightly. He always does, she said. He tries to stop it. Stop what? Josiah finally met my eyes. This. A cold realization settled in my chest. You were never helping me, I said. It wasn't a question. He didn't flinch. I was, he replied. Just not in the way you thought. My fists clenched. You brought me here knowing what would happen. You came here on your own, he said. We just made sure you stayed. My heart started to race again, but not from fear this time. From anger. You're monsters. The word hung in the air. The librarian shook her head. No, she said quietly. We're survivors. By feeding people to that thing. I shot back. By keeping everyone else alive, Josiah snapped. Silence fell again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. I looked between them, trying to find something, regret, guilt, anything. But there was none. Just acceptance. How many? I asked. Neither of them answered. How many people have you let that thing take? I demanded. Josiah's jaw tightened. Enough, he said. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting, he shot back. The librarian stepped forward slightly. "You don't understand what it was like before," she said. "Before we figured it out." "Then explain it to me," I said. Her eyes flickered. For the first time since I'd met her, I saw fear. "It didn't matter who you were," she said. "It took anyone. Everyone. Families. Children. Entire houses sometimes." A chill ran through me. "We were dying," she continued. "Slowly, but inevitably. This town was going to disappear." Josiah nodded. "Until someone realized something," he said. "What?" I asked. He hesitated. Then said, "It prefers strangers." My blood ran cold. "What?" "The storm started changing," he said. "Less frequent. Less aggressive. But only when outsiders came through." I shook my head. "No. That's not how this works." "Maybe not where you're from," the librarian said. "But here. It's the only reason we're still alive." I took a step back. Everything inside me screamed to leave. To get as far away from this place as possible. But one question forced its way out anyway. "So what happens now?" I asked. Neither of them answered right away. Then Josiah said, "That depends." "On what?" He looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time, I saw something behind his eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. Something worse. Resignation. "On whether the storm was satisfied," he said. My stomach dropped. "And if it wasn't?" The librarian spoke this time. Quiet. Certain. "Then it comes back." A long silence followed. Then, from somewhere outside, a faint, distant sound echoed through the town. Not wind. Not thunder. Something metallic. Something rising. My heart skipped. "No," I whispered. Josiah closed his eyes briefly. "It shouldn't be this soon." The sound grew louder. That same warped, grinding wail. My pulse spiked. "The sirens?" I said. The librarian turned toward the door. Her face had gone pale. "Yes," she said. "But that's not supposed to happen twice." The sirens screamed again. Louder this time. Closer. The sound tore through the building like something alive, vibrating in my skull, rattling my teeth. It wasn't just a warning anymore. It felt like anger. "That's not possible," Josiah muttered, pushing himself off the wall. "It already came through." "Well, it's back," I snapped, panic rising fast. So clearly something went wrong. The librarian didn't argue. She was already moving. "Front windows," she said sharply. "Now." We rushed out of the back room and into the main library. The air felt different this time, thicker, heavier, like it was pressing down on us. Josiah reached the window first. Then stopped. "Dead." "What?" I demanded. "What is it?" He didn't answer. So I stepped forward. And wished I hadn't. The sky wasn't just dark. It was wrong. The black cloud wasn't rolling in like before. It was already there. Hanging low. Too low. Like it was sitting directly on top of the town. "What the hell?" I whispered. Shapes moved inside it. More than before. Not one. Not a few. Dozens. Maybe more. The librarian stepped up beside me, her breath catching. "No," she said under her breath. "That's not how it works." The sirens cut off abruptly. Silence crashed down. Then, every door in the street outside slammed shut at once. Bang. Bang! Bang! Like the whole town was sealing itself in. My heart pounded. They know, I said. They know something's different. Josiah nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. They do. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Across the street. A man stood outside his house. Frozen. Staring up at the sky. Why isn't he going inside? I asked. No one answered. The cloud shifted. Something peeled away from it. Then another. And another. My breath caught. They're coming down, I said. The man outside finally moved. He turned. Too late. The darkness dropped on him like a curtain. Swallowed him whole. Gone. No struggle. No sound. Just, gone. I staggered back from the window. That's not possible, I said. It didn't do that before. No, Josiah said quietly. It didn't. The librarian grabbed his arm. You said it was satisfied, she said. You said one was enough. Josiah shook his head, eyes locked on the sky. It was. Then why is it back? He didn't answer. Because we all already knew. My chest tightened. It's not satisfied anymore, I said. The words felt heavy. Final. Josiah looked at me. And for the first time since I met him. He looked afraid. It's changed, he said. Outside, more shapes dropped from the cloud. More people disappeared. No pattern. No warning. Just taken. One after another. They can't control it anymore, I whispered. The librarian's grip tightened. No, she said. They can't. A sudden realization hit me. Hard. This is because of me. They both turned to me. What? Josiah said. You said it prefers outsiders, I continued, my voice shaking. What if, one wasn't enough? Silence. Horrible, crushing silence. The librarian's face went pale. Oh no. Josiah took a step back. You brought it here, he said. I didn't bring anything. I shot back. I just showed up. You stayed, he snapped. Another slam echoed outside. Closer this time. Something hit the side of the building. Hard. The windows rattled violently. Cracks spread across the glass. My pulse spiked. It's not just outside anymore, I said. As if on cue. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied. But dimmer. Much dimmer. A slow, creeping shadow stretched across the floor from the entrance. Not from the door. From the gaps. From the cracks. From every possible opening. I stepped back instinctively. No, no, no. The librarian moved fast, grabbing my arm again. Back room, she said. Now. Josiah didn't move. He was staring at the shadow. At the way it was spreading. Growing. Faster than before. They're not waiting, he said. They're coming inside. The front door rattled violently. Then. It dented inward. Something hit it from the other side. Hard enough to warp the wood. My heart slammed against my ribs. They didn't do that before either, I said. No, Josiah replied. They didn't need to. Another hit. Stronger. The hinges creaked. The frame splintered. The shadow surged forward across the floor, reaching toward us like grasping hands. The librarian pulled me back toward the hallway. Move, she shouted. This time, I didn't hesitate. Because whatever rules this town had been surviving on. They were gone now. And whatever was out there was done playing along. We ran. No plan. No direction. Just away. The back door of the library burst open under Josiah's shoulder, and we stumbled out into an alley choked with weeds and broken concrete. The air hit me like ice. Not cold. Dead. The sky above wasn't a sky anymore, it was a ceiling of black, shifting mass, pressing lower with every second. The town was barely visible beneath it, swallowed in patches of moving darkness. "They're inside now," the librarian said, breathless. "Nowhere's safe." "Then where do we go?" I snapped. No answer. Because there wasn't one. A scream cut through the street ahead. Short. Cut off too quickly. We all froze. Across the alley, a door creaked open. An arm reached out, shaking, desperate, then snapped back into the darkness like something had yanked it from the other side. The door slammed. Silence. My stomach twisted. "This is your system failing," I said, turning to Josiah. "This is what happens when you try to control something like that." "Shut up and move," he barked. We pushed forward, cutting between buildings, keeping low, trying to stay out of sight of whatever was shifting above us. But it didn't matter. Because it already knew where we were. I felt it. That same pressure from before, but stronger. Focused. On me. "Why is it following us?" I asked, panic creeping into my voice. The librarian slowed. Then stopped. "No," she said quietly. "What?" I asked. She turned to me. "It's not following us." My chest tightened. "It's following you." Everything inside me dropped. No, that's not." "You said it yourself," she cut in. "One wasn't enough." Josiah cursed under his breath. "That means it wants more," he said. "And I'm the outsider," I whispered. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. This doesn't stop until it gets what it wants. A low rumble rolled overhead. Closer now. The shadows around us twitched. Moved. Watching. Waiting. I backed away slowly. "No," I said. "No, I'm not doing this. I'm not just letting it take me." "You don't get a choice," Josiah said. "I always have a choice." I snapped. The ground trembled beneath our feet. A section of darkness peeled away from the sky above us. Dropping. Fast. The librarian grabbed my arm. "Run." We sprinted down the alley, the sound of something landing behind us shaking the ground. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see it. We burst out onto the main road. My car. It was still there. Untouched. Like it had been waiting. Hope surged through me. "I'm leaving," I said, already moving toward it. Josiah grabbed my shoulder. "You think you can just drive away from this?" he said. "I'm not staying." I shot back. "Not here, not with you people." Another impact behind us. Closer. The librarian looked between us, fear breaking through her composure. "If he goes," she said slowly. Josiah's grip tightened. "It follows him," he finished. Silence. Heavy. Awful. I understood. They weren't trying to stop me from dying. They were trying to stop it from leaving. From spreading. "You're not letting me go," I said. It wasn't a question. Josiah didn't answer. But he didn't let go either. Rage boiled up inside me. "You don't get to decide that." I shouted, shoving him back. He stumbled. Just enough. I ran. Keys in hand. Heart pounding. I yanked the door open, threw myself inside, and slammed it shut. The engine turned over on the first try. Of course it did. Like everything had been leading to this moment. I looked up. And saw them. Dozens of shapes lining the street. Watching. Not moving. Waiting. For me. My hands trembled on the wheel. "Come on," I muttered. I slammed the gas. The car lurched forward. Straight through them. Through the shadows. Through the edge of the town. And then. Silence. The sky snapped back to blue. The pressure vanished. The road stretched out ahead like nothing had ever happened. I didn't stop driving. Not for 8 hours. Not until I was home. I never went back. I never wrote the article. I tried to convince myself it wasn't real. That it was stress. Exhaustion. Something explainable. But then. 3 days later. My laptop turned on by itself. The screen flickered. And a message appeared. Emergency alert. Stay indoors. The storm has spread. I live in a city. Hundreds of miles away. There are no storms here. No sirens. No missing people. But sometimes. When the sky goes just a little too dark during the day. I swear I can hear it. That sound. That metal scream. And I don't look outside anymore. Because now I understand something I wish I didn't. It doesn't belong to that town. It never did. And I think. I brought it with me. If you are new on my channel The Silent Screams, please donate me in the form of subscribe.